Happy Friday. Welcome into Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast. Yes, it's Friday, June 30th, the final day of June. Brendan Glasheen alongside BJ Cunningham and Anthony DeBundo. Payoff Pitch comes your way Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays during the baseball season. Please rate, review, and subscribe. We greatly appreciate it. Good feedback, poor feedback, whatever you're feeling. We do appreciate your insight. Quick programming note. Next week, we are here just Monday and Friday. We're going to take the 4th off. But please, I buried the lead. DeBundo, BJ, Zerillo, Charlie, they're all going to be in the app betting baseball on Tuesday. It's a full day slate. And truly, to be honest with all of you listening, the day slates are hard when we do the podcast because it's out at like 11 and then the games start. So it works out really well. Just check out the app on Tuesday. We will have a show, though, on Monday and Friday next week. And then also, because it's coming, All-Star break is coming up. So stay tuned for Home Run Derby and All-Star game coverage on the Action Network podcast. More to come. We will share that with you here on Payoff Pitch next week, so you know where to find us for All-Star break coverage. In the meantime, it is a 15-game Friday slate. Everyone's in action. Early game in Chicago at Wrigley, Cleveland, and the Cubs. They start at 2:20, and then the Phillies, they're an earlier game today at 6:05. They're an ESPN Plus game. Pittsburgh, Milwaukee on Apple TV, and then the Angels and Diamondbacks are also on Apple TV tonight. So those of you looking for national viewing options. But as we know, we touch on best bets. They can touch any game on the slate. We might not get to every game on these big slates. I should say that more often because I know people chime in. They go, well, why'd you talk about this game? Well, we don't have time sometimes. There's a lot of games. So without further ado, BJ, best bet for Friday, June 30th, the last day of June.
Yeah, I like the Twins for the first 5 innings at -115. Pablo Lopez against Dean Kramer, which I think is a big mismatch in favor of the Twins. Pablo Lopez, his actual numbers don't look that great. ERA of 4.41. But his expected ERA is at 3.11, which is actually the best mark of his career, Brendan. And the reason he's gotten that so low is because he's finally getting a really, really high number of swings and misses, 11.25 K per 9 rate. His sweeper and his curveball have been by far his best 2 pitches. They're both have a whiff rate over 37%. And his fastball and changeup have been good as well. They both have a whiff rate over 27%. He's in the 96th percentile among major league starting pitchers in chase rate, which is good news against this Orioles lineup that has been in the bottom 10 again in terms of chase rate themselves, and against Lopez's top 4 pitches. They do have negative run values against all of those, except for the fastball. And Lopez's pitching plus has been 110 this season. That's second best in Major League Baseball. He's going against Dean Kramer, who has been significantly worse than him, and he has bad numbers on paper, and it looks even worse when you get into his expected metrics. 4.5 ERA, 5.71 expected ERA. He's in the bottom 10 percentile among major league starting pitchers in expected weighted on base average allowed, expected slugging allowed, and expected batting average allowed. Not to mention, he's a very straightforward pitcher. It's fastball, sinker, and cutter from him. Not really much off speed from him. All 3 of those pitches are allowing an expected weighted on base average over 350. And Anthony will love this. He's allowing an insanely high 10.7% barrel rate. The Twins are much better against right-handed pitching than they are against lefties. And Minnesota has been a significantly better defensive team than Baltimore this season. So I don't really think this line for the first 5 innings should be anywhere close to a pick'em. I have the Twins projected at -152 for the first 5 innings. So I love Lopez in Minnesota at -115.
And DeBundo, it's Dean Kramer. What do you call him? You call him something different, right?
Well, I have a friend who has the last name spelled the same way, and he pronounces it Kremer. So it kind of throws me off. But yes, we'll go Kramer for this. And I kind of agree with BJ. I also bet Minnesota. My best bet today, though, it's Friday afternoon. The wind is blowing out at Wrigley. I think I've given this out before. It's a warm summer day in Chicago, and I like the pitching matchup as well. Justin Steele. Look, we've seen him do this in Wrigley when the wind's blowing out in hot conditions. He did it earlier this year against the Marlins, shut down that lineup. He went to London and shut down the Cardinals lineup in a very friendly hitting environment. The thing about Steele is he's consistently good at inducing weak contact. He has a little bit of seam shifted wake stuff going on with his pitches that enables him to kind of avoid barrels, as BJ talked about barrel rate. And the Cubs get a matchup with Cal Quantrill, who generally induces a good number of fly balls, especially considerably more than steal, which is a major red flag for the Guardians in a matchup where all of a sudden, if the wind's blowing out and the Cubs are putting a bunch of balls in the air, it is going to be a recipe for a lot of homers, as you saw the other night with Wrigley Field, the way it played on Wednesday when they destroyed my under. So with the conditions and the system, I'm rolling with my Cubs 0.5, Cubs minus 1.5 plus 110. This line has moved a lot overnight. Cubs took a ton of money, but I'd still play it up to about plus 110.
Yeah, this could probably fit our Fade the Public segment because latest on the Action app in the pro section, Cubs getting 83% of the bets, 96% of the dollars. Just talking money line here. So, and DeBundo is on the spread. So, and he's right. That number's moving, both, the spread and the money line. So if you like the Cubs, get active soon. Yeah, and by the way, if barrel rate tickles your fancy, stay tuned for Home Run Derby coverage in a couple weeks.
Coming
BJ just couldn't help him. He had to get that in there. And that first bet, he had to work that in. I love it.
Well, Brendan, you weren't in the
you were
not in the MLB writers meeting on Wednesday, but BJ and I we almost came to blows over my use of Stuff Plus and barrel rate. So, there's a little bit of a brouhaha brewing behind the scenes of the Action Network baseball staff, but we're going to continue to use them. And Cal Quantrill, speaking of pitchers who were once darlings of the Slack channel, Quantrill was one of the best pitchers in all of baseball last year in terms of just like if you bet the Guardians when he pitched, they won all the time. But he has not recreated that luck or magic this year. Again, and the Guardians just general struggles against lefties. Like their two best power bats kind of get flipped into their worst platoons with Naylor and Ramirez. And so it's just not quite as effective with that lineup against a left-handed pitcher.
With all due respect, thank you for not inviting me to the writers meeting.
Well, you're not a writer, so.
Right. It fits. Moving on. Are we going to Fade the Public today? We're targeting this game for the segment. Giants and Mets game is at Citi Field. Alex Cobb is on the mound for the Giants. Carlos Carrasco for the New York Mets. Money's coming in on San Francisco. 68% of the bets, 83% of the cash on San Fran. Let's see. Giants at BetMGM minus 125 on the money line. Mets are dogs at home plus 105. Mets can't figure this team out. You can. They're not good. I said it for you right there. They've lost 4 of 5 heading into this game. BJ, do you want to come back on the Mets as a slight home dog?
No, I really don't. I have this game projected right around even money, so essentially around where it is. I mean, Carrasco, he's been bad, like over a 6 expected ERA. The metrics are just really, really bad for him. Cobb's been a very, very average MLB starting pitcher. And, it's funny because if the Mets were like any other team, we wouldn't really hear from their fan base or complain, but they're literally the most vocal people on Twitter and whatever social media app that you use. So I have no ill will towards the Mets, but I find it very comedic and very entertaining, like watching them implode because of how mad their fans get. And the bullpen selection's been bad. Their bullpen numbers have been bad. And I have no desire to back this Mets team that's going on a June swoon right now. They're probably the team that's wanting to see July more than any other team. So no, I will be passing on this one. I think the Giants have been bet up a little bit too much here. To the point where, if I can get the Mets at plus 120, plus 125, maybe, but I'll probably just pass and watch them implode once again.
Very good. DeBundo, you have an angle on this game. Do you like a side or where are you going?
Yeah, there's some excellent hitting weather in the Northeast today. I'm not allowed to come on this show without mentioning the wind at Citizens Bank Park, where it's going to be blowing out straight to center tonight. That same south wind will also help the run environment at Citi Field by quite a bit. 11 miles an hour blowing out, warm temperatures, pretty humid as well. So a very favorable park environment for Citi Field, which normally plays closer to a pitcher's park. Do expect a good run environment. So I like the over tonight, 9 runs. Cobb has not been as dominant as last year. Last year Cobb was the classic, like, oh, look at his xERA, look at his xERA, look at his xERA. This season, he just hasn't done a good enough job of avoiding that hard contact, which has driven his xERA up and back toward kind of the career normals we expect from Alex Cobb. He's lost a little bit of fastball velocity overall. And so, testing that team, the one biggest difference, it's kind of funny now because Cobb is overperforming. The Giants went from one of the worst defensive teams to one of the best, but the Mets have slidden off the defensive ladder. They are now one of the worst defensive teams. So certainly could help the run environment there as well. But yeah, I like over 9 runs in Queens tonight.
Carrasco has allowed a home run in 7 straight starts and 9 of 10 starts this year. And the Mets have lost 4 straight starts that they've lost 4 straight games he has started in.
I'm sure Mets fans are very excited to hope that June can come to an end. I believe they're 6-18 this month. So
All of
June
New York.
swoon, or 7-18 this month. So the
No,
June
Herman-
swoon, as it's been dubbed.
I know Herman had the perfect game, but even the Yankees, like they want June to be over and get.
Oh, we will get to the Yankees, Brendan.
Oh, well, we got to get to the Red Sox too, because
Yeah.
I sat in my outdoor patio. Well, I'll wait and save it for that because I'm mad. I am upset. Because they're so underdogs. See, that's a host. You got to cut yourself off and move on. Stay on task.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite BJ, I love it. Underdog.
Yeah.
You are going against DeBundo's Philadelphia Phillies and his jersey. What do you got?
Yeah, give me the Nationals plus 158. One of Anthony's favorite pitchers that I know he's written up before, but Josiah Gray. It's been a slightly below average pitcher this season by all of his expected metrics, 4.33 expected ERA, but he has made improvements. His home run per 9 rate the last 2 seasons have been over 2. He's lowered that to around 1.2 this season. Gray does rely on a fastball slider combination. He throws that over 50% of the time, which could work against the Phillies offense that has a negative 12.7 run value against the right-handed version of those 2 pitches this season. Christopher Sanchez will be on the mound for the Phillies. He's been good in a limited sample size this season, only 3 starts. He's pitched 66 innings in the big leagues, and he's been, between the bullpen and starting rotation, he's been very average, right at a 4 xFIP pitcher, which is, around the major league average, like I just said. Projection systems have him around a 4.4 ERA type pitcher. So him versus Gray kind of cancels each other out, or a very even type matchup. And Sanchez is a ground ball pitcher. It's sinker, changeup, slider, everything down in the zone. If you look at his AAA or minor league numbers, his ground ball rate was always over 50%. The Nationals are not only 8th in Major League Baseball in weighted on base average against lefties, but they also have the 4th lowest ground ball rate against lefties. So I think this is a decent matchup here for Washington. I hope they ruin Anthony's night, and I like them at plus 158.
DeBundo, as you said before we started recording, the Phils are hot. They've won 5 of 6, 4 in a row. How do you feel about BJ's pick here?
Yeah, I would certainly lean that way myself. Sanchez looked a little bit inflated based off of kind of a couple starts against middling teams. He played the A's, looked good there, and pitched well against the Mets. Overall, gave up 2 or 3 runs in 6 innings, but I think that Sanchez is still limited. The biggest problem with him has been the command, though, and he's when he's struggled in the big leagues, it's because he's walked too many guys. And the Nats aren't going to walk much. They do chase and like to get ahead and aggressive in counts. So from a matchup perspective, it will be interesting. But yeah, the Nats they're pesky, and Gray, I do worry about him because the home runs have always been his biggest problem, and now he goes to Citizens Bank Park with the wind blowing the way it is. It is not necessarily a great matchup for Gray, I don't think, but the Phillies have not slugged much lately, so it will be a good game. Hopefully the Phillies can lose for BJ, but we're at the halfway point. Phillies are going to be at 43-ish, 44 wins, so right around that number that we got preseason on the under. So it's going to be maybe a little bit of a sweat now, second half.
And your dog, the Pittsburgh Pirates, who swept the Padres, and wow, they pulled that game out of their keister yesterday, down 4-0 midway through, and they win 5-4 to send the Padres packing and off to the airport in Pittsburgh. Why do you like the Pirates tonight against the Brewers? That is an Apple TV game. Why do you like Pittsburgh?
Pirates cashed all 3 games as pretty sizable underdogs against the overvalued and fraudulent Padres. The Pirates have made a couple of call-ups this week. Henry Davis comes up, provides a little bit of a spark, maybe. Yep. He had a couple big hits and kind of lengthens the lineup. Brian Reynolds is expected to play, and he has not played for the last 10 days. He's been out with an oblique issue. He returns to the lineup. He's the Pirates' best hitter all around, and that's a huge boost to a lineup that otherwise, if you just kind of look at it on paper, is not particularly impressive. But the Brewers had to use all of their high leverage arms yesterday. For the Pirates, it was pretty much just Bednar. Bednar will be available, I'd imagine, today as well, even though he threw about 20 pitches yesterday. But I'm interested and intrigued by Osvaldo Bido, the starter for the Pirates. This is why I love Stuff Plus. And you look at this guy's minor league track record, you wouldn't be all that impressed. But he comes up to the majors, and he's been a solid starter thus far in his brief outings. He had like a 4.5 ERA in AAA, which is not all that impressive. Had real command issues, but the stuff has always kind of been there. His cutter is excellent, and that's what I'm extremely impressed by, and think it can really neutralize this Milwaukee lineup. 134 Stuff Plus on it, overall Stuff Plus right around league average for a starter. So can he project as a 4.5 pitcher going forward? 4.5 ERA pitcher. If he can, I love the Pirates. Plus 120 or better tonight at home. Against Milwaukee, who I continue to think is one of the most overrated teams in the league. The projection systems don't really see the strikeouts, right? So they're seeing 7. Like the bat has him for 7.19 strikeouts per 9 and a 5 ERA. I think he can be better than that. And so if he's beating the projections, then he's generally undervalued. And I'm interested in Bido enough to bet on him tonight as a dog.
Alrighty, Brewers and Reds tied atop the standings heading into the weekend. Who do the Reds have this weekend?
Padres.
Are they in trouble? They already probably were, but they seem to be in all out of sorts.
Well, the thing
is, Colin Whitchurch, love you, mean it. And Colin always likes our underdog picks for the website and for the app. He just bet the Padres to make the playoffs at plus 280.
You're buying low, in theory.
Yeah.
They're 8 games out of the wild card.
I don't see it. I really don't.
Holy hell.
2 and 8.
I mean, the lineup is just not deep enough. There's no depth. Yeah, like Tatis, Machado, and Soto are really good. Bogarts has kind of been up and down, but they're not getting any production from the bottom half of the lineup. And so when you don't have that or middle relief, like you just kind of get exposed. And that's been the issue for the Pirates or Padres. They gutted the farm, and they have paid the price for it. Now, it's one season. They're going to probably run all these guys back next year. I don't think they should sell really at the deadline, except for maybe an expiring contract or two. But yeah, I mean, there's always flaws in the approach. I think, everybody talked about how the Phillies were going to be overvalued because of their World Series run. People forget, like, the Padres barely snuck in the playoffs last year too. And they played better with Soto, but it wasn't like they were world beaters when Soto came into town. They won one series against the Dodgers, and everybody went, oh, and the Mets, and everybody went, oh, look at them. But like they always had the starting pitching. Musgrove, Snell, and Darvish are like a pretty good group on paper.
Snell pitched well the other night.
Yeah, he did. And honestly, Musgrove pitched pretty well yesterday. The bullpen blows up twice and they lose.
Okay. Let's go on to our final bets, and then we'll get you out of here for the weekend, everybody. BJ. Red Sox can't score. Red Sox can't score, man.
Well, they will tonight.
Brian Bayo, just picture this. Beautiful Thursday night in Massachusetts, 6 o'clock start, just an hour. It's perfect. I love the 6 o'clock start. I wish they did it every game. You're done by 8:30.
We'll move to the central time zone, Brendan, and you can experience that.
Okay, whatever. Stop it. It's perfect. Brian Bayo, 7 innings of no hit ball. He was electric, and I felt it. I'm like, the Red Sox are going to. He and Tim Wakefield, former Red Sox, was on the broadcast, and he's like, it feels like whenever he pitches, it's got a Pedro feel to it, meaning that there's going to be a good chance to win the game when Brian Bayo's pitching, and he was awesome. Yeah. Red Sox lose 2-0. Can't score. They had first and second in a tie game in the 8th. Don't get anything out of it. Strikeout. Now that Marlins bullpen is really impressive, and they're rolling right now. But this Red Sox team, they can't score. And you like the over tonight in Toronto. I hope it's going to be like 9-1 Blue Jays is what you're hoping for an over 9.
9-1 Red Sox. What are you talking about, man? Come on.
No.
Have a little faith.
No.
Jose Barrios is on the mound. Big time negative regression candidate. ERA 3.6. Expected ERA full run higher at 4.6. James Paxton. He's had good expected metrics, but if you dig into his StatCast numbers, it's a little concerning. His average exit velocity allowed and hard hit rate allowed are fairly high. And he has a 10.6% barrel rate, which is not good. And Toronto has been above average against left-handed pitching. So I do like the over there, projecting about 10.2 runs. what was the other game I had? Oh, the Yankees and the Cardinals under 9.5. This is something, and I hope we had it on tape, but I said the Yankees were a little too reliant on Aaron Judge to be their only offensive output before the season. Brendan, since he got hurt on June 4th, the Yankees, they got some inflated numbers against, Oakland over this past series. But before that series, they were dead last from June 4th on in every single hitting metric imaginable.
Yeah, we went through some of those on Tuesday.
Yeah,
going through some of their.
It's bad. So they're going to be facing one of Anthony's favorites, Matthew Liberatore, who is, he's been bad. Like his expected metrics are really bad. So is Luis Severino, but I still believe that Severino has the talent level. He's not a 6.5 xERA pitcher. He's somewhere around 4 or below that. So I do like the under there. I think it's inflated total with two pitchers that have had bad expected metrics. And what was the other one that I wrote down? Tigers first 5 -115.
Yes.
Always going to fade Austin Gomber any chance that I can get. He has been so bad this season for Colorado. This is something that I mentioned before, but he's a fly ball pitcher, and that just doesn't work in Coors Field. So even though the Tigers offense has been bad this season, Lorenzen has been a decent 4.2, 4.3 expected ERA pitcher. So significant edge for the Tigers for the first 5 innings here in the pitching matchup. So I like them at -1. It's now up to -130.
It's the most predictable tactic in the book, DeBundo. If the Red Sox aren't going right, just find a way to shit on the Yankees.
Exactly.
Or it'd be the same way if you were going to, give the Braves or the Mets, more so the Mets these days, a hard time for their struggles. But you don't have to do that because the Phillies are actually a decent baseball team and they're playing well. DeBundo, your final.
Yeah. Well, the Red Sox are interesting. So Yoshida didn't really play this week. And the way that lineup yesterday looks. And right. Well, and he comes back, faces the lefty, struggles. Yep. Just the difference that he makes in that lineup, I think, is really significant. I think Sean and I have talked about this and kind of mentioned it, like just his patience, his plate approach, the fact that he's the second best hitter on the team has really hurt not having him in the lineup this week, as he's got like this weird forearm thing going on. But I'm not worried about Yoshida. I'm not worried about the Red Sox offense either. I mean, they have a lot of guys who get on base and they have some good slugging, and that's a great park. Boston will be fine. I mean, Luzardo is really good too.
Well, hold on. Define fine. What does fine mean? 81 and 81?
No, well, the pitching is a bigger issue. I think the Red Sox are a top 10 offense.
I agree.
Okay.
I would like.
Brandon, you're overreacting to a couple bad outings.
I actually think the Red Sox lineup is better than it's better than the Phillies.
I agree.
Like you guys don't have the starting pitching, but like it's the better lineup. Like Bayo's been also Paxton. Like he's gotten bombed a couple of times, but like he's always had that problem. The thing about Paxton, like he gives up an occasional nuke, but like the strikeouts are back and the velocity's been good. And now he did have that like weird thing last start. That's been a little bit tricky to kind of price him. And that's another thing. There's a couple of matchups that I like am interested in, but don't really know what to make of it. So like McClanahan against Bryce Miller. Now Bryce Miller's losing fastball velocity. He was tipping earlier. Like, I don't know what to make of him. McClanahan left his last start with an injury. And then they said he was fine. He's pitching again. So obviously he's fine, but how fine? And could his stuff be down a little bit tonight? That game was really hard to price. And this Yankees game is not any different for me. Severino, like just randomly lost multiple miles per hour off his fastball and got absolutely annihilated in 3 straight starts against the Dodgers, against the White Sox, then against the Mets.
Pitch well against Texas.
And then, right. But then he came back and the fastball velo was kind of good again. He pitched well then. So it really I watched the radar gun. You could live bet the game if you want, because if the radar gun's down on Severino, he's going to get destroyed. His Cardinals lineup can still hit. And Liberatore is a classic. I want to take a victory lap on that, because everybody told me when he gained velocity on his fastball in AAA that he was going to be some great pitcher now. He has come up. He's lost the fastball velocity. I think he was juicing to try to get back to the majors, like juicing his fastball, like just going all in on the heater to try to get back to the big leagues. And now he's lost a couple MPHs. He can't strike anybody out. He's got one good pitch, and he's gotten exposed. Now that being said, the Yankees lineup is pretty poor. So, trying to trust them to work out long at bats is a bit of a struggle, because you really just need to wait Liberatore out and you can get to him, because he doesn't throw enough strikes. So overall, there's a lot of really hard games to price, just because there's a lot of this pitcher's dinged up, this pitcher's got a velo issue, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what to make of half of these guys. Is Liberatore even going to throw more than 4 innings? Because they kind of bullpen gamed him last game in London too. So A lot of uncertainty on the card tonight. I do like Minnesota though. Kramer has had a bunch of really good starts in a row, but there's nothing in the profile that makes me think he's a better pitcher. He just avoided some hard hit balls for a while, and now as a fly ball pitcher with a favorable hitting environment in Baltimore tonight as well, it could be Twins hitting season. They are a all or nothing offense. Lots of strikeouts, lots of barrels, and been a lot more of the strikeouts the last week or two.
All right. I think that's it. Gents, have a great weekend. DeBundo, enjoy the game. Go Nats.
That's always
Go Nats.
Phils.
Okay.
Go. Maybe I might bet the over. I have to figure out what I'm gonna bet for tonight because I need something. So
yeah, and make sure you share the wind statistics with everyone you sit next to, besides your friends.
Yep, wind will be blowing out tonight. I'm going with family tonight too, so I have to explain the impact of the wind on to the people.
Very, very Dom Toretto of you. Family.
I don't know who that. I don't know who that is.
Fast and Furious. Come on, man. Yeah, Vin Diesel. Family. Come on.
Gotcha.
All right. As a reminder, that's it. We're horsing around now. So June ends today. July begins tomorrow. That's how that works. We are here. Payoff pitch Monday, July 3rd. We will have a podcast. We will be here Monday, not here Tuesday, and here next Friday. And then next week, we will share with you our plans for Home Run Derby and All-Star Game coverage, because that is a week from Monday. So that's coming. Can you believe it? All-Star break's already here in baseball. For BJ Cunningham, Anthony DeBundo, Brendan Glasheen, thanks for listening, everybody. We greatly appreciate it. We are Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast. Have a great weekend and talk to you all on Monday. See ya.